Town of Manchester Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for March 19th, 2013. First order of business is to approve the January 15th, 2013 minutes.
I see we need to make one change in the first paragraph to account for a non-existent commission member. Other than that, I make a motion that the minutes be approved as written.
Second.
I second that.
Are you actually a member of the commission?
Laguna second that.
Yeah, you are. Okay.
Okay, we have a motion to accept the minutes of the January 15th meeting. We have a second with the notation to change Burgoon to Burbank. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Reports. Michelle, Board of Zoning Appeals.
We have no cases for Board of Zoning Appeals. As far as the town, I did not watch council meeting. Steve's not here this evening, so I have nothing to report. Doug's not here for the council, so we are zooming right on to the county. How's that?
That's wonderful. Well, good evening, ma'am.
Well, good evening to all of you.
So what's new?
Lovely night, and I'm just going to continue with the Zoom. I have nothing to report tonight.
So our travel through the agenda is better than the roads were last night. Is that what you're saying?
That may be what I'm saying.
Very good.
Bobby, I have one question.
Yes.
There's this,
Come up to the
yeah, that would be nice. Regarding the new stormwater management fees, are you familiar at all with where the county is in their, our county in developing this stormwater fee that I guess we're going to be paying?
I know staff in my office has been working on it. I do not know any of the specifics on it. Would you like me to look into that a little bit?
Well, I mean, I can,
Report
I just,
back at the
no,
next-
that would be fine. I was just curious because I know Baltimore County just came out with their fee schedule, and Anne Arundel and Hartford have tentative fee schedules floating around out there. And
I
the
mean,
last I had looked, the Carroll hadn't come up with anything yet.
As far as I know, they're being worked on.
Okay.
And I only know that because every now and then when I pick up something from the printer, I'll see printouts from other staff people, and I've seen something along that line. So, but I can check into that.
Okay, that would be
And report
great.
back to the
Well, you
commission
can
next month.
let me know. I know Steve did say that he had attended a meeting that they had discussed it, but they don't even know if they'll collect it or will collect it, much less what it will be yet.
I mean, what I've been hearing is that it was just going to be like the flush tax fee. It was going to get assessed onto the property tax bills.
That's what they're talking about,
Yeah.
yes.
That's what they're talking about.
But see, our flash tax is on our, on the water bills,
Oh, is it?
In
Okay.
town.
In town.
right?
Okay.
Let me see what I can find out and report back
Thank you.
at the next meeting.
I appreciate it.
Okay, takes us through item 3. Item 4, Stegger's Overlook review.
Okay.
I guess before we get into the review, I'm going to have to recuse myself from any voting and further discussion on this. My business partner has been engaged by Mr. DeMario's firm on a couple of projects in Baltimore County, so I think it would be inappropriate for me to render a decision in this because indirectly I get a benefit from his working on those projects. So I'm
Duly-
just going to have to recuse myself.
Duly noted, thank you. Okay, Mr. DeMario.
Well, trying to keep in the theme of zipping right through things, I won't recap the entire overview of the project. I'll just focus on that the last time we met was actually the planning board was in a working session. We met out at Maiden Lane. The Hempstead Fire Department was kind enough to come out and do a demonstration with T2. We started the morning out with demonstrating whether or not it could move in and out of a similar entrance at Knobloch Insurance, and then the vehicle moved down to the actual site of Stegger's Overlook, and they performed a partial movement into the site because obviously the site's not constructed. It was, I think everyone involved this observation that T2 was able to maneuver successfully on Maiden Lane. there were a couple questions asked by the board and staff. I didn't really make any notes of what the questions were, but it was just general questions about how the vehicle would move in and be deployed as best as I can recall. And that brings us up to the last thing that occurred that day was there was a request to consider having T3 from the Westminster Fire Department come out and do a similar demonstration. I called Brian Van Fossen, who has actually a dual role. He's the county safety reviewer, but he's also a driver of T3. And I knew that, and I approached him about if he could talk to the chief, of Westminster chief, that is. And they had a bunch of back and forth, and he finally sent me an email this afternoon with a letter saying that they would not return out to the site. So that's unfortunate. But you know, his observation, Brian's observation was that he didn't see any issues. If T2 could get into it, he felt that he could get T3. And the wheelbase is 10 inches longer on T3, and it does have a longer overhang. But again, I think that it could have a different type of deployment from what T2 saw. So my observation, or my opinion from listening to Brian, was that T3 could probably be as successful as T2 was. That's all that I have, and I guess we can entertain any questions or go back over any other issues that may still be outstanding.
Just to clarify one point, T2 is a heavier truck, therefore its turning angle is probably going to be a little bit more restricted because the weight on that front axle would be, which is partially what's governing how much of a turn angle they can get. However, based upon what I saw in the field, I would believe that he could probably get in there if he did become the first engine or the first ladder truck to arrive there. But I do want to clarify one element that we discussed in the field. When the second truck arrives, second ladder truck that is, to be more specific, there was discussion about the possibility of it staging from Wood Lane and reaching over the wall and fence. Was that correct understanding?
Yes, that was a discussion, yes.
Okay. One of my concerns with that is the loading on Wood Lane. Obviously, Wood Lane is going to have to be reconstructed when the water line is rebuilt. And we just need to make sure that that's going to be a roadway that's going to be capable of supporting a truck that has its riggers in place. So we're not talking about a low-weight section there, basically. So we just need to make sure we keep that in mind as we move forward through the process. We also had some utilities that obviously would need to be adjusted, relocated, et cetera.
Correct.
You know, and along that same line that Bob brought up is I think the distance. I know it's not set in stone on any things, but I'd like to maybe be some consideration on when that lane is redone, the extension going to the property line rather than. I think there's been different talks back and forth whether or not the road reconstruction would stop where the utilities might go into the wall or under the wall versus towards the end of the property. And I'm just thinking, if they do want to run a truck down to the end and come, get that far side, or if something happens at that neighboring property and they need to get a fire truck back there, we still need to have concern for her or, that particular property behind, on the far end of Wood Lane.
Right. Duly noted. If I can point to this, the utility is going to actually, be relocated all the way back here. So we're talking about, just a couple of feet to extend. And I think it was our intention all along that when we rebuilt Wood Drive, that it would be to the edge of our property.
And what's the proposed width of Wood?
Wood Drive would be it would be the standard 12-foot wide, 8 inches of pressure run. We'll take a look to see how that works with outrigger placement and such, so that that we're addressing all of the concerns.
Yeah,
Outrigger and loading.
14. Yeah.
I 16.
16.
The normal base is an 8-inch crusher run base, which is probably adequate to support the riggers. It's just a question of how wide does a section need to be to support that.
Is there any, like a top coat on that or of any kind, or just normal?
It's a gravel road now. We're going to replace it with a deeper section gravel road out to 12 feet wide. It is a private road, yes.
It is a private road, but it's a private road that you're using as the second point of fire deployment. So we need to make sure that the owner of that property is not going to be adversely affected should the fire department have to stage on it, is the concern there. That you're not providing a continuous loop around the site or a second means of egress to fight from. You're utilizing the adjacent property. That's the reason for that comment. Okay. Circle back on to traffic, which we have spent a lot of our last session here discussing, and we appreciate all the efforts that were made to come up with concepts. And as we expressed at the previous meeting, we understand that a reasonable improvement financially and physically could not be borne by this project. It's a bad situation today. We understand that. We do believe, and we believe that you will concur, that there will be some degree of additional volume generated by this development. While being age restricted, they are still in the workforce. There will still be trips coming in and out of it. So we will be looking for some kind of contribution to town improvements as it relates to the property, in the form of either funds for an intersection improvement, funds for Maiden Lane improvement, something to help bring the traffic up.
I think Mr. Lepo had previously agreed to some type of proportional funding or something. Obviously,
Okay.
We're not sure what that amount might be, but I think he's...
Those details haven't been worked out. We understand that. We understand that even should the board grant conceptual approval tonight, that you still have several stages to go through with the county and that you still have to come back for final approval. We understand that. And all these details will obviously be worked out during that time period.
I think what were a couple of the concerns were maybe some possible stormwater relocation.
In Maiden Lane area.
Yeah, manhole, that type of thing. And did we ever get any type of...
Yeah, Rich, I have a copy
indication of some
of a
cost?
memo, and I have copies for you guys. Just giving some ideas of, Maiden Lane has a little rehab that needs to be done, and only from the section, so you can take these for you guys. And it was their suggestion to always go south from your development through that corner exit.
Okay.
So
And these are
the short
just-
side.
Yeah. This is only a suggestion, it's just something to work from.
Right. Okay.
Which is why I expressed it as contribution to this or intersection improvement, some kind of ways of contributing back to traffic improvements. Refresh my memory. Have you previously filed a stormwater concept with the county?
We actually have had approval of the stormwater management design. Unfortunately, that there's a time constraint and there were changes to the regulations, but so we'll have to go back in and become reauthorized. The changes to the regulations, I guess fortunately for us, is going toward the type of system that was actually designed. So I'm very confident that what we designed back in '06 meets the 2010 requirements, and the only step that we have to do is develop what's called an environmentally sensitive design to show how we're going to design the stormwater management. Obviously, I've talked with Martin Covington about this particular site, and And I think that we'll be able to address the county's regulations without any changes to what we've been showing you.
And where do you stand on Forest? Forest Bank, okay.
Refresh my memory, a couple of the changes that I remember in previous meetings were the removal of some of the curbs and make a few things wider and those front two curb possibilities. And I should have looked at the code. Do we need that before conceptual?
No.
No, we can
Okay.
approve conceptual conditioned upon those revisions being made and implementation of requirements of the county.
Right.
I think that what we tried to do, we substituted this sheet for the plan, the 18 sheets that were submitted. So this plan is what I would consider to be part of the approved set, if that's what happens tonight. A couple of the changes from the original would be that we had originally had some parking along here that's been eliminated. We also relocated a couple of spaces so that we could have a dedicated trash truck or delivery truck turnaround at this point. We also shifted a couple of spaces so they're a little bit wider. And in order to accomplish all that, we added a parking bay on the side. So this gave us an additional 15 spaces over here where we lost a couple. I think we lost 4 here and we lost, I think, 1 here and 2 or 3 up here. So the net is that we actually have still an adequate amount of parking, but we have a little more room for delivery trucks. So that the concern there was that we were proposing the trash truck would go down and back up, and now it would come down and only back up 25, 30 feet. So there wouldn't be a long duration of a backup buzzer. I don't think there were any other significant changes. One comment during the demonstration was whether or not this curb line could be widened even greater than what the county standard is. And that's something we'll look at in the final, but I think that's kind of like DPW review stuff.
Now, the parking that was added on the east side of that blade, is that going across the lot line there? Will it require re-subdivision of another piece?
It will not. We'll have to work through the actual legal description of what we do here, but this property right here is also owned by Lepo Family Investments. So what I think Michelle had asked me to do was to prove to her that by coming across the line that it didn't cause any zoning hardship or self-inflicted conflicts that we would have to come back for a variance for it, and it does not. So that's same owner, one property line. Just like we're going to dissolve the property line in between here, there's 3 parcels that we're going to consolidate. Depending on what the town wants, we can either do a lot line adjustment, or we can just do simply a parking easement across it, whatever the town wants. I don't think that's really a big issue.
No, but can you get me
Well,
something?
it would be if we do a lot line adjustment, because that's going to draw another property into the mix.
And I was writing notes, so I don't know what you were saying.
Okay.
But can you give me a copy of the plat where you're showing me the setbacks that you're leaving on that lot?
Oh, this lot?
Yeah, since we have a we can't leave it
Right.
non-conforming. Okay.
Can you review the loads on that wall again? You and I had a side discussion about the strength of the wall versus the trucks and the parking and the vehicles and.
Sure. You mean on the retaining wall?
Yes, sir.
The retaining wall will be designed to support an H20 loading. An H20 loading is basically a fully loaded dump truck. When I design retaining walls, we use a factor of safety of 2.0. So it's going to be much stronger than just being able to hold the dump truck. Obviously, a factor of safety means that it counts for things that that may have gone wrong in construction or materials. So, we don't want to falsely say, oh, it can handle, an H-40 loading like an airport, but it'll be designed to handle heavy construction equipment. We have to do that analysis because we're going to be building it, and we're going to have a lot of construction equipment adjacent to that wall during the construction phase. So the type of wall we're using is probably going to be a product called Strongstone. It's a massive block. It's 8 feet long, 3 feet high, and 24 inches deep. They weigh about 6,000 pounds. It's really hard to move those suckers. And actually, they're installed with cranes too, so it'll be a very, very strong. Hence the name of that particular product, Strongstone.
And what's the height of that wall at its maximum extent?
The maximum extent is about 10.5 feet, and it's right down in the area where just before the turn, it actually starts to come back up right in there, but it's right about there is the maximum depth.
And how far is it off the property line at that point?
At that point,
Approximately.
approximately 15 feet.
Okay. It's less than the height of the wall.
Yeah.
Okay. And what are the current plans for landscaping in and around the property?
I'm not a landscape architect, so I want to make sure I get I believe that it's called a Class A screening along the face of the retaining wall. Whatever the county landscape requirements are is what we're doing. I know that in the plan that we submitted, we had a landscaping plan. I'm sorry, I probably shouldn't
That's fine.
have more
That's
than
fine.
that.
We'll be reviewing that again. Finally, anyways.
Yeah.
We're going to meet the code.
Yeah.
We know we have to landscape in front of retaining walls, so.
Okay.
With Wood Drive being the private road that it is, have you had much talk or plan of action how not to disrupt traffic on that road? So the residents at the end of the road can, I have some concerns about, the piping and the utilities that might go in.
No, we haven't, and primarily, we don't know exactly how the utilities are going to go in, so we'll develop a maintenance of traffic plan to make sure that 24 hours, 24/7, our neighbors can get into their property, and there may be a momentary pause where we have equipment moving in and out, but it will be, there'll always be access to
some
their home.
reason.
They won't be impeded any more than it takes a moment for the vehicle to move off to the side.
So most of the retaining wall work will be done from your side.
Correct. Well, we do have a fair amount of space on the bottom of the wall.
Right.
So we can do it,
Okay.
and actually the Strongstone can be built from either side, uphill. Actually, it's easier to build it from the uphill side than it is from the downhill side.
Okay.
But it could be either way, depending on what the plan is to do. But it'll be specified that he cannot block the road or leave equipment or material to interfere with the
Right.
access.
I think there was also discussion at the end of both properties where they meet up with Maiden Lane. You were talking a fairly significant improvement in the blacktop and the paving area, actually going, back further than it needs to. I don't know if maybe you can explain that a little bit. I think it was, 10 or 12 feet to help with the turning radius and the turning access.
Right, I think what transpired was one of the Hempstead firemen, it was the driver, I think his name was Brian, made a comment when we were standing on the ground and he had the vehicle catty corner in, he asked if, how we were going to do that, and he made a comment, well, it'd be nice if you could take your curb that you painted here and feather the asphalt out. So I think what he was looking for was from this turn, the nose down, to do a piece of triangle asphalt that would make a nicer transition than just an abrupt edge of Maiden Lane with the
Right.
gravel road.
So
So we can certainly include that.
yeah, I just have a concern over, the aesthetics of it, and, if we make it so it's a, not a hard nose into Wood Lane, that there be a nice smooth transition from Maiden into Wood Lane. One, it would help with the vehicle accesses,
Right.
but help, because there is a significant drop there.
Right, and if we do that correctly, then it'll also help protect the edge of Maiden Lane from that crumble effect where the transition occurs. So we'll make sure that we have a nice
And, right.
apron of asphalt on the edge of Maiden Lane, then the transition to the stone.
And I'm sure the property owners further down would enjoy some assistance with the water runoff. Where everybody, I don't know, you remember on Maiden where the little asphalt's built up there, where it does dip down right in front of Wood Lane,
Right, run
with,
feet of asphalt.
Rich, I do think now that we are beyond and into the review of it all, I would like to get a couple copies of it now that you've reconfigured. Yeah,
Okay.
because I don't have anything like that for reviewing either, because the old plan didn't have it.
No, but, okay, I thought I gave you a supplement, and
No, we had a little,
I'll take this one off the board tonight, and I'll get you additional copies. That
okay,
way you
that'd be great.
have a record.
Oh, I only had a small one.
Okay. My mistake then.
Okay, I think we're good. We're just going to take a minute and ask if there's any other public comment on the property, and then we'll go from there.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you. I'd like to go ahead and call if there's any public comment on this plan or any questions that need to be asked. Yes, ma'am.
I still have a concern about the stormwater management. He just mentioned about the water coming down. Water's not actually coming down from the Stager property. At the end of Main Wood Drive, you'll see that the water flows down from there and actually progresses in towards Wood.
from Main Street.
From Main
Yes,
Street.
ma'am.
And we know that because one of the neighbors likes to throw his ashes into the street out there, and it's just full of black stuff all the way down to the Stager property. So you kind of have a path that you can see where the water already flows. So when you're building up a wall, which is 10 feet, which, you say 10 feet for the wall?
Yes, ma'am, let's leave this one.
Do we allow fences that high in town? Do we build walls that high?
We can build walls that high
Yeah, we don't have.
if they're set back proper distance.
We have concern that when it does snow, blow over, just like a snow fence, it's gonna cause a detriment to the drive, trying to get in and out of there. So that's gonna cause some concerns. And we still have concerns about the noise pollution. Of such a large complex with a residential area. And we also have a concern in regards to where they're actually moving the water lines. It's kind of up in the air. I find that essentially that's not available at this point. Or that isn't available before you make the decision.
My understanding is we don't have an exact location, but we're staying all within the same easement that's already existing.
There is no easement.
There's something for us to have our water line back there.
There isn't. That's the problem. There's no easement, there's a right of way, but there is no easement.
Oh,
You don't
right of
have it
way.
on your buildings.
Okay, well, then right away. But we are only staying within what we had. That's a question I can't even answer.
There's a ordinance that establishes the right
So but it's had, I thought what I remember seeing when we did all the Wood Drive, when you did all the Wood Drive research, that it was in there. So,
to. Actually, it wasn't there before the case, but the case got
Oh, it's going to stay going to that fire hydrant. It's just relocating along their property to get it out from being under the wall. So that's the relocation.
Nice to see that before any digging.
That's a condition of final engineering normally.
Okay. And then on another property, Ryan, they have the stormwater management plan. There's a lot of water off of that, off of that street, off of that blacktop down Nathan Lane.
And one of the early concerns that I remember us having in many meetings ago was that the stormwater management design of that property, from what I understand, pretty much had 100% retainage on the property itself. The way the parking lot's designed and the runoff is the technical term. I don't know quite the technical term, but there was definitely a lot of concern on any type of water runoff towards the end property, your neighboring property, and then the retaining wall. And I do believe in part of that landscaping plan, if it serves me right, there is some height to the wall above the ground. Like, it doesn't stop right at the ground. It goes up 2-3 feet. And then there's also trees.
There'll have to be a safety fence, safety guardrail.
Right,
there as well.
there's a buffer type thing that I remember being addressed with a I can't remember if I brought it up or someone else brought it up, but the snow blow off, and once the wall goes up, pretty much when you're plowing that road, there's only one. You're pretty much going to have one way for it to go now. But if I remember correctly, along that same line of questioning, there was a good 4 feet from the road area, if I'm not mistaken, where the snow could be plowed towards the wall. Vaguely, I think I recall it in that way. That helps.
Do you want to address some of those concerns, Mr. Mayor? Yeah.
The type of stormwater management facility is an underground infiltration trench, and you can see the dimpled area on the site. Basically, what you have underground, touching the existing ground, is a 6-inch layer of sand, and then on top of that, it's clean stone. And the stone has voids in it, so when you pour water into, or stormwater into it, it will hold the water. The way it's sized is that all of the runoff from our site and plus part of the Culvire site will store in that infiltration trench up to the 10-year event. Now, the way the county makes us do it is they actually make us capture 150% of the 10-year storm, which is effectively the 100-year event. So by regulation, we will control 100% of the 10-year storm event will stay on site, and only when you get into the extreme event will you see a portion of that storm event that's above what's being captured actually pond up on the end of our site. And we have a curb system there, so you're going to get storage on top of that that's not even part of it. So we've got a tremendous amount of stormwater storage built into this site. So that's why there is no requirement for us to have a pipe outfall over to village market. That's all been reviewed by the county already previously. So I'm anticipating running exactly the same thing, if that helps you understand what we're doing.
Or 10-year storm, they pay a 100-year storm, what's the difference?
Oh, okay,
Because to
sorry.
me, a 100-year storm is a 100-year storm, and a 10-year storm is a 10-year storm.
Right. What the difference is, essentially what we're calling a 10-year storm is that a recurrent frequency of once every 10 years we'll have a storm that has 5.2 inches of rainfall. Once every 100 years we'll have about 7.2 inches of rainfall in this area. difference is that we should only have one Hurricane Agnes a century. Well, we had Agnes, then we had Eloise. You know,
So it's called global warming.
so, you know, statistically, it can happen back to back. So, you know, even though we call them those intervals, they can happen pretty close to each other. But that's what that's the standard that we design around.
I understand the design. I also know that the town once approved the stormwater management pond right off of Fridinger Mill that they drained onto the road that they said would never flood. It flooded out all the way out halfway to Westminster. So I guess I have a little bit of skepticism.
Oh, it does, thank you. I didn't mention that. I mean, the other part is that today, when you have a 10-year event, you have runoff across Wood Drive. When this facility goes into place, you will not have that runoff anymore. So that should reduce and eliminate the problem that you're speaking about with the active and such.
And just to clarify, is this going to have a homeowners association?
You don't need,
They're going to be
it's condominiums.
condos?
It'll be a condominium association.
Still be an association to maintain the property, though. Yes. Okay.
Any other comments, questions, or concerns? Okay. I will entertain a motion from the board on this property for conceptual approval or disapproval.
Okay. Make a motion to give conceptual approval to the project as presented with changes as previously filed to the plan to be provided to the county, subject to any and all approvals by the county and/or state related to infrastructure improvements, stormwater management improvements, etc. Follow up with the council for final approval when appropriate. Any other stipulations that they participate in a traffic improvement program to be determined. Possibility was presented to the client tonight. That's all I've got.
Which includes maybe some road improvements.
Did you get all the way through that, or I only got halfway? I ran out of paper. I was going to use my hand, but it's not that fast.
I've learned to just shorten
Would you go ahead and read that motion back so we can make sure we have it right?
Motion to give concept approval to the project with the changes as previously filed in the plan submitted to the county, subject to all approvals by the county and state, and a traffic improvement plan to be determined.
That's all I had.
Okay, motion before us.
Can we add a stipulation?
You can have discussion about the motion if you want.
We have a motion on the floor.
Seconded.
Okay, have a motion second. Just please again note that Mr. Luskin will not be voting. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, passed.
Do you all have your packets of this, or do I need to get more from you? You have your
I have mine down
I have
I just
an
need the
entire
updated plan.
file drawer that says
I just need
Steger's
the updated
Overlook.
plan.
Yeah.
We had it on a small version.
Okay, thank you. That takes care of item 4. Item 5, zoning ordinance changes discussion.
Did you want to adjourn and just do it work session, or you want to keep going in meeting? Just adjourn?
I think that'd be probably a better way for
Me
just a
too.
general discussion.
Me too.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
We need a motion.
Entertain a motion to adjourn this evening's meeting.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second that, the name is
Thank
Burbank.
you.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Good evening.